Please like my videos, please subscribe to my channel, and please press the bell icon so that you get to know when my latest video has come. And to learn more and to find a video relevant to you, please do check out my videos list.
Hello, Namaskar and Adab to all my friends from your friend Astrologer and Guide Irfan. Once more with you from my very own channel, Astro Assurance. Today, let's uncover a little bit of secrets of the 8th house, and let's see how, to an extent, not completely, but how you can master the 8th house. Now, a few things about the 8th house. One of the things, if you look at your horoscope, you have the 1st house, 5th house and the 9th house. One of the critical houses, the trine houses also. The 1st house is both the Lagna as well as a trine house. The 5th house is the trine house, the 9th house is also a trine house. All three are also Dharma Bhavas, or the houses of duty and responsibility. And all three of them in the Mool Trikon sign energies have Aries, Leo and Sagittarius energies. These three houses are Dharma houses and Mool Trikon signs of the planets which rule those houses. So these are very, very important houses, and to a large extent they are the ones for the reason for existence, the reason why we are born, and the purpose of life to a large extent emanates from these three houses. So the houses, if you look at in the horoscope, they are pairs. The 1st and 7th house are pairs, or they are complementary to each other. The 1st and the 7th house are pairs or complementary houses to each other, being opposite to each other. The 6th and 12th houses are pairs or houses being complementary to each other. If the 6th sign Virgo is the ascendant, then the 12th sign Pisces automatically complements it. And if the 4th house Cancer become the ascendant, then the 7th house automatically becomes Capricorn. So in each of these pairs, between the 1st house having Aries energies and the 7th house having Libra energies, if you see the 1st and 7th house, both of them having Aries and Libra energies, are more Trikona signs. The 4th sign and the 10th sign, Cancer and Capricorn, both are not Mool Trikona signs, but the Cancer sign is definitely a Mool Trikona sign of Moon. The 5th sign Leo has Aquarius as the opposite sign, and both of them are Mool Trikona sign energies of Sun and Saturn. But there is one pair which does not have any Mool Trikona sign energies. Every other pair, 1, 7, 4, 10, 3, 9, where 9th house Sagittarius energies is the Mool Trikona sign energy. Then 5, 11, 6, 12, 6th sign is Virgo. All of them have at least one Mool Trikona sign or two Mool Trikona signs, except the pair of Taurus and Scorpio. Taurus, if Taurus is the ascendant, then Scorpio becomes the opposite sign or the house opposite to it or complementary to it. So Taurus and Scorpio are two signs or two opposite houses, none of which have the Mool Trikona sign energies. Taurus is the second sign of Venus, whose Mool Trikona sign energy is Libra, and Scorpio is the second sign of Mars, whose actual Mool Trikona sign energy is Aries. So the 8th sign and the 2nd sign are not Mool Trikona sign energies, or in effect the 2nd and the 8th house don't have a Mool Trikona sign energies, and there lies a lot of secrets also there. Firstly, the 8th house has also been called as the Ayusthana, or the house of life. So the house opposite the 8th house, that is the 2nd house, becomes a Marakasthana, or the house of death also you can say. And if 8th house is also a life house or Ayusthana, then the 12th to it, which is the 7th house, is also Marakasthana or house of death. At least if the 2nd and the 7th house are not houses of death, then they can bring death-like troubles to you because of being opposite to the 8th house and 12th to the 8th house. So 2nd house and the 7th house are called as a Marakasthana. However, 8th house is the house of challenges, issues, tribulations which keep throwing up, and hence because it limits the Ayu, limits the life also, it is also known in astrology as also as the house of death, because that is the house which is limiting the life to you. So it is also called as the house of death. So it is both Ayusthana, which is the house of life, but because it limits the number of years that you can live, it is also the house of death. And so there lies the enigma. Is it truly the house of life, or is it truly the house of death? And what life and death are you talking about? So if you see, what does the 8th house represent? The 8th house is represented by the number 8, the numerological number 8, and the horizontal number 8 is the sign of infinity. So infinity is the horizontal 8 number. You can look it up in algebra or maths. If you have studied algebra or if you have studied maths, the horizontal 8 number is the sign of infinity, which means never ending. So why is the sign of infinity being given to the 8th house? Is it because of some coincidence? No. The reason being is that the 8th house represents the challenges, the issues, the tribulations of life. And many times, because of the challenges, the issues or tribulations, we take a wrong turn. And in the most trying of circumstances, we leave the essence of being right or doing righteous behavior or being good. And hence, we take a wrong turn. And what happens then? When we take a wrong turn, we become a stumbling block to salvation, which also the 8th house represents. So what happens? Why is it still infinity? Because you die and you come back to another life, because you have to live your karma. Again you face challenges, tribulations, issues in life. Again you do some right, you take a lot of wrong turns, wrong choices you make. Again you continue in the cycle of life and death. So you are infinitely caught up in the cycle of life and death, and that's why infinity. However, if you achieve moksha, which the 8th house also represents, what is moksha? Moksha is being with the supreme energy forever, for eternal life, for infinity. So in both the circumstances, if you are living a life of death and coming back in the cycle again to live another life, to live out your karma, you are going infinitely through life and death, life and death, life and then death, the cycle of life and death. So infinitely being caught up there, or infinitely being with the supreme energy through moksha. And that's why the 8th house is the house also represented by the infinite sign, or the sign of infinity. You can choose which infinite existence you want. Either you want the existence of continuously being in the cycle of life and death, or being in the other extreme of being in an infinite existence, which is being eternally with the supreme energy. And hence the 8th house is truly a house of infinity, or representing the enigma of life and death. Either you can have eternal life, or you can have eternal life and death through a cycle, because of not being righteous or being wrong. And hence that is why the second house being the Marakasthana. Why is the second house also Marakasthana? Because it is an Artha Bhava, house of materialistic desires. But the second house also represents earning, livelihood. Sometimes we are so caught up in earning and in a livelihood that we let go of the principles which our family tradition raises up with. We are not mindful of the moksha which the 8th house represents, the bang opposite the second house. And so being so caught up with the materialism, so caught up in chasing livelihood, wanting to earn from here, wanting to earn from there, that we either sacrifice our principles or we sacrifice the moksha of the 8th house. And hence when the challenges and the tribulations 8th house keeps throwing at us, it is an opportunity. The supreme energy keeps giving us an opportunity after opportunity to face the challenges and issues of the 8th house and be right and be righteous and be good. But we take wrong turns. But in giving that, it is giving us a cleansing opportunity. One of my gurus used to call the 8th house the laundrette, or the laundry, or the house of sanitization or cleansing. And he used to say that when the 8th house tries to clean you, don't give in to the need for continuing to chase materialism. Don't succumb to the energies either, but try and be right and be good, which is a challenge. But if you try to be right and be righteous and be good, then your cleansing is easier, then your cleansing is effective. If the cleansing is not effective, then the moksha is not closer, the moksha is far away and away, because every time you're given an opportunity to cleanse yourself, you accumulate more dirt because you take wrong turns, you make wrong choices. So whenever you face tough issues in life, you try to cheat, you try to manipulate, you try to be unfair to a relationship, you try to circumvent processes, you try to take shortcuts at your work, and doing in all of that to protect yourself from an unsavory incident, even for a time period, you end up taking those wrong turns, you end up making wrong choices, and hence you put a stoppage to your salvation, you put a stoppage to being cleansed, you put a stoppage to your sanitization, to your cleansing, so that you can move towards your moksha. But the second house is the house of low principles, the principles which you brought up in your family, the family values, the principle that you need to do right and you need to be good. But they are at a more material level, they are still at a more lower level. The true house, which represents being righteous and being good, comes from the ninth house. What is the ninth house? The ninth house tells you that what is the second house to any house? The second house to any house is the earning of that house. So if the eighth house is putting up tribulation, challenges, issues, what is the earning of the eighth house? The ninth house being second to the eighth house. And the experiences that you gain through the eighth house, and yet you are being right, or you're doing the righteous thing and you're being good, that is the gain for you. And that's why the ninth house is also called as the house of higher learning, and also the house of higher morals, higher ethics. And what is the higher learning? The higher learning is not college degrees. The higher learning is being able to face challenges and issues thrown over the eighth house, and learning through those experiences by still being righteous, still being good. And so it is at a higher level of righteousness and good that you do. And so being righteous and good at a higher level, at a higher plane, in spite of facing all the challenges and issues which the eighth house throws at you, and yet at the highest level of challenges, yet being righteous and yet being good, means now you're religiously right. And that's why the ninth house has also been called as the house of religion. What religion is this? This religion is not about temples or mosques or the gurdwaras that you can go. This religion is the religion of being righteous and being good at the highest level. And that's why God, or the supreme energy, is righteousness personified and goodness. What is the 12th to the 9th house? The 8th house. So the loss of being righteous, the loss of being good is the 8th house. And so if you are not able to face the challenges and issues, the tribulations which the 8th house throws at you from time to time, and you succumb, then you lose the righteousness, you lose the goodness, you lose the higher religious goodness of the 9th house. It means make your righteousness, make your goodness your religion, and your religion should be being good and being right, and that is the best religion that you can have, rather than visiting temples, mosques and churches, which is on the side, which is a lower manifestation of religion. The higher manifestation of religion is being righteous, being good, and through that moving to the Supreme Lord, and that is being truly holy. And that's why the 9th house is the house of higher learning. But because the 8th house is throwing you challenges and issues and bringing you down and sucking up the energies of the righteousness, because you seem to be succumbing to it, because why? You want to live on. So see, the puzzle is this: a person who whether you follow the Sanatan Dharma, whether you call yourself a Hindu or you call yourself a Muslim, Christian, whatever religion you follow, every religion says that you will die and you will either have a cycle of life and death, as Sanatan Dharma or Hinduism says, which means you are going to come back to life, or you will have an eternal life. So you will be living forever, whether you come back in a life of cycle of death or you have an eternal life like the religion of Islam and Christianity say. Yet we are afraid to die, the physical death in the material world, and hence because we are caught up in the materialism of the second house, and because the challenges where the 8th house throws at us, and yet we want to continue to live in the material life, you want to continue to thrive in the material life by taking the wrong paths, and hence the second and the 8th house have not been given Mool Trikona sign energies, because they are losses to being righteous and being good, because you succumb to the Artha of the second house, or you succumb to the desire to continue to lead a mere mortal existence of the 8th house. If you truly want to manifest the 8th house better, then you need to succumb to the sanitization that the 8th house throws into, the laundry that the 8th house throws into, the cleansing that the 8th house wants to subject to you, so that you can move towards moksha. And that's why the 8th house is truly an enigma. It is the life, it is the house of Ayu or life. It is also the house which limits your life, and hence the house of death. But it is also the house of moksha, moving towards salvation. But it is also Dusthana, which keeps throwing challenges and issues at you. There is no other house which is as complex energies as the 8th house. But you need to pick and choose what energy you need to live by, truly live by in the 8th house. If you succumb to the materialism that you want to chase by taking wrong decisions when you face challenges and issues of the 8th house, then you are succumbing to it. Or if you want to continue to live on forever, and in that, because you want to live on, you don't want the eternal life, you choose the mere mortal existence, and hence you succumb to the mere mortal existence that you want to have. That becomes the second stumbling block for you, and that's where the Dusthana energy lies. But if you truly want to have eternal life, then you should succumb to the sanitization, the laundry effect that the 8th house throws at you, and then truly get the moksha which the 8th house energies represent. So that's why the second and the 8th house does not have or do not have the Mool Trikona sign energies, because both of them in some way or the other are your biggest test. The Artha, the materialism of the second house, is a big test to you, which we succumb to most of the time, and the 8th house is a big test for us, because we fall short of not being able to face the laundry test which the 8th house throws at us, and we succumb to those mere mortal existence and taking wrong choices when issues and challenges come to us. And that's why the pure energies of the Mool Trikona sign energies are not given to the second house and the 8th house, whereas every other house opposite to each other will have either one Mool Trikona sign energy or two, both of them having Mool Trikona sign energies. For example, Aries and Libra, and Leo and Aquarius, both the pairs have both the houses being Mool Trikona sign energies. Some other day we will talk about why those opposite houses have Mool Trikona sign energies. So the 8th house is a truly laundry effect, but 8th house is also the house of facing those challenges and issues, and in facing those challenges and issues, going through the laundry and going through the sanitization. Now what happens if you have lived all your life a life of materialism, wanting to live on forever in the material world? Then there is no soul cleansing which has been done. There is no cleansing of the soul. The 8th house is the true cleansing of the soul. That is the biggest secret of the 8th house. The true cleansing of the soul, the true sanitization of the soul, the true laundry of the soul is the 8th house, and that's why it is both the Ayusthana, it is also the house of death, it is also the house of moksha, because it wants to cleanse you of the need to continue to live in this world and move on to the next world by cleansing you of the mere mortal clinging, mere mortal attachment that you have, and move to a higher realm. So the true death in the 8th house is the death of the materialistic desires and the life of the eternal life, and hence it is both the house of life and the house of death, and the true moksha, the true elevation of the soul to reach and meet the supreme energy and live an eternal life. And if you allow the challenges and issues of the 8th house not to pull you down, but face them with true righteousness and choose to be righteous in any instance, and be good, be righteous and be good, and sacrifice everything and everything which comes in the way of doing good and being right, whether it is relationship, whether it is money, whether it is friendships, whether it is attachments, and only when you are ready to give up, then only you attain eternal life, you attain eternal moksha. And hence the 8th house is the biggest stumbling block to being cleansed and your soul's cleansing happening and moving on, but it is also the biggest opportunity of moksha. The 12th house is the higher realm of moksha, but giving up everything of the 12th house, it is easier to manifest that moksha. But the 8th house is not just asking you to give up. 8th house is true challenges. 8th house puts you into the whirlpool of one issues after the other, and you're clutching at straws when you are in this whirlpool because you don't want to be sucked down, and hence you take wrong turns, you clutch at the wrong straws, and you lose your way. So the biggest support of cleansing of the soul of the 8th house happens when you face the challenges and issues of the 8th house with the support of the 9th house, the righteousness of the 9th house, the right ethical, morally higher ethical choices of the 9th house, by listening to the gurus or taking the sound advice of the gurus, borrowing from the wisdom of the gurus and the father. 9th house represents father, the son, but that is also the soul, which means by listening to gurus, the sage's advices, you learn, and to the higher learning, the true manifestation of the soul happens to the 9th house. And so being righteous and being good in every situation possible, not succumbing to the mere material desires of the 8th house or being challenged by the 2nd house, is what true cleansing and mastering of the 8th house represents. So if you truly want to master the 8th house, don't cling on to materialism, don't cling on to this mere mortal existence, but try and attain the eternal life by being righteous and being good, helping others, doing service. And hence in every video that you see, in every video almost without hesitation, I keep telling and keep emphasizing the need to serve others, and through serving others, serving the supreme energy. So if you truly want to master the 8th house, allow the cleansing of the soul through the 8th house, and yet being righteous and yet being good. So friends, look into what your 8th house is throwing up as challenges, what laundry effect that it wants to put you through, how it wants to help you through cleansing your soul through the houses that it is getting attached to, and through that the cleansing of your soul will happen, and the opportunity to be righteous and to do good will be given by the 8th house. And when you do that, that's how you will truly master the 8th house and move towards eternal salvation by moving up the spiritual realm. So friends, like this video, share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation from me, please reach out to me at the links given below. Till some other time with some other video, this is your friend, astrologer and guide Irfan, signing off. Ciao.